Alright then, this tier list brought upon some changes, and I'm pretty sure some people want me to explain them a bit further than I did. Character limits a bitch. Anyways, first thing I'll explain though is just a change, a regular one that would have happened regardless of the matchups. Volibear. Now, I already mentioned in the first iteration of the Nautilus one is that he's actually a lot better than I thought he was. He's still pretty clunky and kind of, underwhelming, but he's pretty, of course, his ganking is already there. He's got those tools. But when it comes to dueling, it's kind of like you jump him, and if you didn't have a significant advantage there, so you got a good chance he's gonna turn around and probably destroy you. He's pretty strong 1v1 if the duel persists and he doesn't get his ass kited. So, when it comes to picking fights with others, I kind of figured out, well, not me, I saw the people do it, and then I kind of got a chance to do it. He's pretty good at that, and I think that merits him going up a little bit more, and I'm looking more into him. So, now Lee Sin is number 1 out of the entire tier list. And before anybody goes, but he just fucking got nerfed. Yeah, those nerfs didn't fucking matter. You can nerf, you can make a 100-foot tall giant 1 foot, less, tall. He's still fucking 95 feet tall. He's taller than you. Okay. Lee Sin can gank anybody and can pretty much duel and kill any other jungler. He's not reliant on mana. He has so many paths opening. We already know that. All his old jungle stuff is still there. He's still really good, but now that matches are being considered, the fact is, if he has got such dangerously high, positive matchups for him in both the lane and the jungle, meaning he can gank on pretty much anybody with high success, and beat anybody in a duel in the jungle with pretty much high success. Even characters like Shyvana, who is pretty much stomping everybody else. That says a lot. Udyr kind of lost out because his ganking is no longer, as reliable as it used to be. He can farm fast and invade fast, but, Lee Sin just having those better matchups in the lane just edged him out. Udyr's still really strong, and which brings up to somebody else who's kind of similar, just slightly less so, Shyvana. Now, Shyvana has a chance of getting even higher, and probably got to too, but thing is, her lane matchups are even worse than Udyr, and she's got no inherent sustain, so that's the only thing he's got her beat on. They're about similar speed, with Shyvana edging out just a little bit, and Shyvana is probably a better pick right now, but that's not being taken into account. So Shyvana, strong, just not as strong as Udyr, who is not as rounded as Lee Sin with matchups. Now Mundo's very much like Shyvana too, who's very much like Udyr. So they pretty much don't have to explain what happens, when they clear and their speed and all that other stuff. Their lane matchups are still pretty bad too. Mundo is lower than them because they're just slightly better than him off in those other categories, or slightly better in the same categories. Mundo though, he amplifies like a bitch. Means that if he catches someone in a gank, like he goes exhausted, or his teammates help him out, or in an invasion, he catches somebody off guard, he's going to make short work of them. He can kite most junglers. He can't beat them up in a straight duel like Udyr will probably destroy Mundo, but he can kite them. He can kite them and then, whittle them down and then go in for a kill. That's what an amplifier is. So Mundo makes very good use of amplifiers, and he went up because of that and his matches versus other junglers compared to the following character. Now, this one hurts to say because I was invested in Sejuani. She was awesome. However, though, the matchups, take her toll. She does well against laners. She can gank most lanes, and at level 6 she can gank anybody. But she just can't deal with other junglers. Her damage is so pitiful. She can CC lock them when slows, but if they decide to turn around and break her face in, they're going to get to do that. This doesn't make her a worse pick. This entire thing doesn't make any jungler any worse picks than they are. It just makes, since now I'm taking into account, the matchups, some of them are going to take a hit because of this. Sejuani just can't deal with other junglers. So that just means she goes down. Again, she's not a bad pick because of it. Just, you got to make note that her matchups versus other junglers suck. So all that's going to do is, you divert your focus to the laners and, just be, more careful versus other junglers. Though she doesn't take that much advantage with amplifiers as other ones do, but for her, teammate amplification is extreme. Everything else, not really. Oh, well, yeah, blue is blue. But that's just pretty much about it. Now, talking about characters who took a hit because of this matchup thing, Cho'Gath. Now, I've already, gone on massive rants of how Cho'Gath is such an awesome jungler. Yeah, he jungles like a, god. But what's always kept him down was his matchups. That's why, you could justify him being on god tier before, but I knew that his matchups was a good reason not to ever put him on god tier. And now I can make it obvious to everybody else just how bad they are. Because he can, like, most junglers will make a joke of him. He's cooldown reliant, they can dodge his abilities. It's like his damage isn't a great, extreme like Lee Sin's or anything. Most lane ganks, most lane matchups that can ignore his stuff. Misses the rupture, he doesn't do anything, just walk away. So he doesn't do well versus matchups, and he doesn't amplify his abilities either by a great amount. Like, sure, he can, with blue, okay, blue kind of doesn't do much from red, yeah, not as much as it would have done for others, etc., etc. That kind of stuff just doesn't amplify as much for him as it does to others. So his matchups and amplification are just really bad, and this is what ended up lowering him down. He can jungle like a god, but he can't, he's just pretty much sociopathic when it comes to everything else. Now, why did Amumu stay up as Sejuani went down? Because of matchups. While people may not, want to ever accept this, Amumu's matchups versus other junglers aren't as bad as they make it out to be. You can take away his blue, but yeah, that will hurt him. But when you come to actually dueling him, Amumu can probably kill you, and he actually gets some amplification out of his stuff. Noticeably red buff. The more he keeps you pinned next to him, the more damage is being dealt to you. In a long drawn out duel, Amumu will probably kick your ass. So, and Amumu can actually respond to, his oppressors, so he can actually, by himself, patent, any, advantage the enemy characters have. So he isn't as, helpless as people make him out to be. He can duel with others because he, the amount of damage he can deal out. Sure, he isn't, as, reliable when it comes to dueling as Lee Sin or Udyr. And sure, he's still will probably get his ass kicked, but he's not as bad as, someone like Cho'Gath or Sejuani would have dealt with that situation. And come lane matchups, he's got pretty much positive ones thanks to his stun. Skill shot or whatever, it's pretty easy to avoid. Come level 6, no one's going to escape that. So, Amumu is not as bad as you think, and he can deal with some of invaders, and he can kick their asses if he takes advantage of amplifiers. Now Shen, and people or flocks of sheep just don't stop coming. Yeah, Shen is pretty overpowered right now, apparently in the lane. Whatever that may be, when it comes to jungling, he still gets his ass beat. He's slow as hell, and his matchups aren't any better. So it's just if those go hand in hand. If he's too slow, then he gets taken advantage by anybody, and so his matchups are awful. It's like, I just can't stress enough to people. He's good where he is at tier 3. Any above, if he goes any higher, it's kind of just ignoring the fact that this is a glaring weakness that he has. Tier 3 is fine, okay? It's more of a niche pick there because Jungle Shen fills a unique role for if he's fighting a non-invasive jungler, if he can be allowed to get to level 6 and do all this other cool stuff. Yeah, that's a good time to actually pick him when he gets to take advantage of that, and he'll be pretty good there. But when it comes to most situations, there won't be a time for him to be in the jungle. However, in the lane, that's a whole nother story. People are banning him left and right. That's a whole nother thing. He's getting nerfed apparently, so yeah, they overdid it. Now, there are two characters that have, pretty, wonky stats, and that's Karthus and Master Yi, but they make incredible use of amplifiers, that their matchups or their, weaknesses are completely overshadowed if, taken well care of. Like Karthus, this is why he's been seen as in some jungle use. His matchups are atrocious. Most junglers will destroy him. However, If his abilities are amplified by his team, by the buffs, by whatever, he can become very useful jungler, and it's just devastating. When it comes to dueling other junglers, catch someone off by surprise, and we're all familiar with Karthus' damage. He will destroy anybody, even the Lee Sin will have to be afraid of him if he's caught off guard, that kind of stuff. Master Yi specifically is more geared towards this, since he has less weaknesses than Karthus, and his amplification is just as high. You've seen this before. Bush ganks, bottom lane bush ganks or top lane bush ganks, that kind of stuff, when the enemy team unsuspectingly runs into somebody or that kind of stuff. That's a good example of amplifying someone's ganks. You make use of line of sight to trick your opponents, and you don't have to burn anything, or they don't get to react as quickly to you or whatever. That kind of stuff just makes some characters a lot more dangerous. Lee Sin's weaker end ganking is made is subverted. I mean, is amplified by like say Graves walks in right into his face into the bush and gets cleaved two times by Master Yi's powered up sword. That's a huge amount of damage. That's amplification. That's ganking done incredibly well. His shoddy ganking just became like S rank or whatever I'm trying to say with this. That kind of stuff. Lee Sin gets to amplify that a lot. Let's just say a scenario where, let's say you're jungling, you're at your red, and you drag the red into the bush. Master Yi with double buffs and a powered up sword of his E double strikes you because he saved that stuff up. He's applied red, he just dealt a massive amount of damage to you. Your cooldowns are probably down. That stuff for Master Yi is a lot more significant than for a lot of other junglers. And they're like, you may have been a superior positive matchup to him, like Tiger Udyr beats Master Yi because Master Yi's squishiness. You may have been Tiger Udyr, but Master Yi just amplified his powers versus you and cleaved your ass in two. That stuff doesn't matter. You're running for your life now. He just tore you to pieces. And that's what I mean. Karthus and Master Yi take that to another level, and this is kind of what gives them an edge over us. This is why Master Yi got to stay up, because he gets to amplify his powers more than a lot of other junglers when he takes advantage of this stuff. This is why he's a great invader duelist. This is why Master Yi has always been seen as a risky pick, because he has to take advantage of these amplifications. He cannot afford to waste them or to not use them. Master Yi starts off at a lower pedestal than most characters, but he has the potential to be higher than them if he takes advantage of those things. So as a Master Yi player, you have to play balls to the walls. Passive Master Yi play is not recommended. Warwick is back. Now, he's always been a pretty good jungle pick because, he's useful to the team, but he's always had the whole weakness of not being able to gank anybody pre-level 6, and thus, that kind of resonates in the matchups for lanes too. He can't gank anybody, and some people will just laugh at him if he tries to gank, and they won't even burn anything. He'll be like, what the fuck you doing, Warwick? Go back to your jungle kind of deal. But once come level 6, everyone's afraid of him, and they kind of cry themselves to sleep. However, his jungle matchups are interesting in that they're like fiddlesticks. They're kind of like Lee Sin. Let's say Lee Sin strolls into Warwick's jungle, starts causing a mess. Warwick spots him. He probably won't kill Lee Sin, but Lee Sin won't kill him, and they kind of just stare at each other. Like, so what are you doing here? And they walk away, kind of deal. Warwick, if they try to fight Warwick, he'll probably kill them because Warwick is pretty resilient in a straight up duel. It's hard to 1v1 Warwick. Even more so is that Warwick greatly amplifies himself with anything he takes advantage of. This is the only way he kind of ganks though. If he's got team amplification or he's got like exhaust or whatever, if he actually manages to grab somebody, he's going to deal a huge amount of damage, and they probably can't fight back. So let's say they were to invade him in the jungle, and they were to get in a duel. And if Warwick had, like red buff or some crap like that, and they got in a duel, Warwick will probably kill them, even if they try to run. Oh, you're with red now. Why the fuck did you pick a fight with Warwick? That's kind of deal. That's how his matchups are actually good. Now, if he goes into the enemy jungle, sure he can scare some people off, but they can kite him, and he'll probably get stuck in the enemy team, and they'll converge on him and kill him. But that's why he's like Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks doesn't go looking for fights. Neither does Warwick. They can't just stick there, but no one can mess with them. So it's kind of like a ticking time bomb kind of deal. And the buff actually made the amplification a lot better. He does a lot more damage, meaning people can't fuck with him as much anymore. And his speed, especially when assisted by his team, has been greatly increased. So, by himself, he's pretty awful in every single regard, well, speeding and ganking. But thanks to the buff, if he gets assisted, it's actually incredibly noticeable. So, get a leash, get assistance from your team, and you'll see Warwick's actually a lot better and dangerous.